And finally, number one, this is how I am so excited to end our first and maybe every episode of Community Countdown. Who knows? Let's talk about some upcoming titles that we're allowed to talk about, because obviously there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes that we can't quite speak about yet. And that's a whole different subject, because I am so excited for some of these things. But the things that have been announced, things that we can talk about. Melly, what are you most excited about in the coming, month or two in terms of titles that we're working on?
Yeah, I think this month, the thing that I'm most excited for, obviously it's Month of Darkness for the World of Darkness, and we have Vampire, and we have a couple Vampire books that we're going to be having out this month, one of which is Second Inquisition, which I am most excited about, getting to read and work on this book and all the different things that it offers. It appeals to me specifically. What it is that it adds a whole bunch of options for storytellers for antagonistic forces, because it is people that are hunting the vampires that want to, for whatever reason, be the antagonist of those vampires, whereas usually, you've got the vampires in your story are the predators, and that is the kind of angle that you're playing with, and in this case you're turning them into the prey. It doesn't appeal to every group, but I think that it just works to even just elevate a current campaign that you have going on, or maybe start a brand new chronicle, whatever it is for you. I think that this book adds it adds so many, first of all, just antagonists for you to play with, even if you're not going to do the entire Second Inquisition. You get pages and pages of new antagonists, new things that you can use against and for the vampires in your story, and I am just really, really excited to have this available on Demiplane.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of narrative where you're kind of flipping the roles of predator and prey, I find that so interesting and so compelling, because when you switch the power dynamics, the players suddenly, on the back foot. It is just such a unique narrative. Yes. You can tell. And maybe for once, the storyteller has a chance to rule with an iron fist. Or not. I don't know. That's not my type of game.
We'll see how the D10s fall.
It's true. But as for me, my title that I'm most excited about is the big Kingmaker release that we've been talking about for a long time now. For those who might not be familiar, Kingmaker was initially an adventure path released with the first edition of Pathfinder. Was very, very loved, and is kind of, I think, one of the things that has structured the way that we think about tiers of play. In many ways, where you start as kind of these low-level characters, not necessarily working for good or evil. You're kind of just working for yourselves. I'm trying to think what the best analogy is. I don't want to say criminals necessarily, but you're a little roguish in your ways. Yeah, whatever suits you best. But then as you advance through tiers of play, you start to have influence and power, and start to have things that are yours that you need to protect. And then it ends high level play, where you are basically ruling a kingdom and need to protect it from these invading forces. And so I think there's just this beautiful narrative there that really echoes a lot of the things that we think about when we think about structures for narrative by and large, in terms of fantasy, and of course, like I said, it's one of the fan favorites. So initially it was released a long time ago.
In addition to the narrative too, it's just full of new mechanics, new activities. You've got the Kingdom and Warfare stuff that adds into the game, like you were talking about. As you get to those later levels, that's not just narrative. It is an amazing narrative, but you also have mechanics. That's what Pathfinder always gives us. This is how you as a GM and you as players interact with the mechanics of the game. And also for cozy gamers like me, there's cooking.
God, I love cooking.
I love cooking.
One day we're gonna play Stardew Valley together. We're gonna make some meals. I tell you what. But so, of course, right, this was a first edition release, like I said. Initially came out in, I want to say, like 2010, somewhere in there. In 2019, Paizo released a Kickstarter to update it and re-release it for second edition, along with some additional goodies, some things that we can't necessarily do because, like, physical dice, how do we do that at Demiplane? We can't. But there's new artwork, new maps, some phenomenal stuff coming out of this Kickstarter that I cannot wait to show off. It is a look back at some of the things, the best hits, the greatest of album from Pathfinder First Edition that we get to bring to Pathfinder Second Edition and really just enjoy. So that's what I'm most excited about. Melly, I think we're just about out of time. We've counted down some very cool things. We've answered some questions, talked about some new games, and some fun stuff coming up. If you had to give us an insightful, wise, final soundbite, something that everyone could take home and really just like hold in their hearts for the next month until the second episode of Community Countdown comes around, what's that final gem of wisdom that you'd like to give us?
Get you a Nexus.
Get you a Nexus. You heard it here, folks. And with that, I think our countdown has hit 0.
See you Nexus time.